It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson here, joined by Josh Williams, Fuad Hasan and Rob Gutmann. We are brought to you by Green King. It says here, the season for festive football. I'm with them 100%. The best way to watch it is down at your local Green King Sports pub. It is a time to catch up with friends, old and new. So if you get down there for refreshing pints, delicious food, and live action of every game that's on, every fixture, TNT, Sky, Amazon Live at Green King Sports, that means wall-to-wall action on massive HD screens. Every winning goal, every key moment, every contentious decision in an atmosphere worth sharing. Download the Green King Sport app and you get 10% off drinks every single time there is sport on the television. The Anfield Wrap is every show, audio and video, out for free this week as well. Do check all of them out. You can do that on your own. You don't need your friends for that one. You can do it in yours and enjoy. But feel free to do so. Every single show out for free this week. I'll be dead clear. The reason why is because we think it's great and we want you to subscribe. So we think if you sample it all for a week, you'll then sign up. This strategy of mine at 3-2 on the 83rd minute that I'd had extensive conversations with Craig Hannon about and we pulled together, felt as though it was a major error. It's worth saying. The messages from Craig, honestly, I might have to burn them. They were so furious with Liverpool Football Club. Liverpool 4, Fulham 3. Josh Williams, there's more questions than answers, I think, off the back of the game about Liverpool in general. But there is one emphatic answer, which is that Liverpool, and especially Liverpool senior players, by that I do mean the captain and the vice-captain, very much do believe Liverpool are in something.
Yeah, it's one of them really like weird kind of narrative games in terms of like there's two ways of looking at it. You can look at it from the perspective of Liverpool are in a title race because we quite clearly have the mentality to be in one, and we kind of look like that team from a few years back where you're picking up 90 points, you're never getting beat. There's always a way back, despite the fact that there's like 5 minutes left in the game and you're a goal down. But then there's the other perspective of Liverpool conceded 3 against Fulham, very nearly got beat, and just kind of showcased a bit of a weak underbelly, a bit harsh maybe in terms of conceding 3 and having the lead on 2 occasions, was it? 3?
Well, in the end 3 occasions because they win.
Yeah. But in terms of like assessing like Liverpool's title contentions on the back of it, I completely agree with you in terms of there's more questions than answers really. But it's nice that we won a game, and I'm sure on the back of that people will think positively and rightly so, really.
Well, Josh, I'll come back to you on it because on the question of are we in something, I mean, we sort of are. It's played 14, 2 points off the top and ahead of Manchester City, and we've been away and played the away games that we have. So you can't sort of say we're not, but not too differently to you. I did feel as though Liverpool were just, for vast swathes of the game, just not very good. And that, the flip side of that, listen, not very good and winning when Liverpool have been good at times this season. It's absolutely fine. We know it's a hard week. It was reminiscent to me, different fixture and different winner. But of Marco Silva's Everton rocking up to Anfield in the December of 2018 and Divock Origi scoring the only goal in that game. To me, it's a little bit like that in that I think Marco Silva set the team up well that day. I think he set the team up brilliantly against Liverpool, to be fair, and he's worthy of a lot of credit, Marco Silva and his players. But Liverpool still get it done, and the table looks the way the table looks.
Yeah, I mean, the way the game went, I didn't feel like it was that different, to be honest, to the typical Liverpool game that we've seen this season. I think one of the big differences, and I'm not sure whether we'll touch on this, to be honest, but I felt 2 of the goals Fulham scored, the first 2, I think Alisson saves them. And I think
we will be touching on that.
Yeah, well, I think if that happens, the game doesn't go anywhere near the way it goes in terms of the direction of it. So that's a big thing. And I think you've also got to throw in there as well, title-wise. You've got to bear in mind, like we all view Manchester City as, the ultimate title challenger, the ultimate champion, really. And if we'd done what City have done in the past couple of weeks in terms of conceding 4 against Chelsea, how many times did they have to lead in that game? 3?
Yeah.
Well, similar against Spurs, they really didn't kill Spurs. End up conceding 3, late goal. That all of that is, if that was Arsenal or Liverpool, it'd be very like, they haven't got it in them. They're kind of a little bit weak and all that sort of stuff. But we don't really hear it as much because it's Pep Guardiola, it's Manchester City. We understand why, but it so far he doesn't look like there's a runaway winner, and maybe that's why there's kind of 3 teams well in contention, and that's why Liverpool, despite not being perfect, maybe it's one of them seasons where you don't really have to be.
City have only won 3 of the last 8, which is it's incredible. I mean, that's almost as bad a run as I think they've had in recent memory. I mean, they had a bad spell in the autumn of last year where they didn't look particularly impressive, but that's really, really rocky. The counterpoint to that is that they are the likeliest to have a 15-match winning run in them of all the teams.
Yeah,
I totally agree with what Josh has said. I am none the wiser. I mean, your first 3 minutes of what you said there, Josh, we could have been talking about City 1, Liverpool 1 from the previous week, by the way. I'm none the wiser. Yeah. We are saying that a lot. But the table's the wiser. The table shows what the table shows. I came out of it there was a strange mixture of elation and fuck. We're not that good, are we? But as I settled to it, I'm thinking, well, hang on. It's not an accident we've again come from behind to win. We're not the flukiest team in the world. In fact, lots of things haven't gone for us this season. The Tottenham game being the most egregious example of it. But even against Luton, you think, God, we don't need a worldie against Luton. Just a decent shot would do. And we've got 3 points, not one. Now, we get 4 strikes that would win four individual games there. Were we lucky? No, because our quality came to the fore, and I think that's what you have to look at. You don't score goals like the Trent one, which isn't credited to him ridiculously, but that's a whole other debate. And his second, you don't score goals like that, or the McAllister one that goes top bins. You don't score those goals unless you have really, really good players. I'm using the word top bins ironically. I can't stress that enough to our listenership.
Don't you worry at all. Then
no, just clarification there. And then Wataru Endo, you go, well, we bought him because we said he was a good player, and look, he showed it. You know, these things aren't accidents. So I think we get what we deserve in a weird sort of way.
It's 2 genuinely great moments, Fuad. Genuinely great moments. Both the Endo goal and then the Trent goal that immediately follows it. It's 2 other brilliant goals as well. It's worth sort of, as much as I can be irritated by the decision making and movement of Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. And all that sort of stuff. You can do the tactical pulling apart. Is the shape right for the first one that they score because Virgil's pushed up the pitch, which, by the way, he was right to do, and they should have restructured and they don't do it well enough. You can do all of that, but let's do the four brilliant things. Before we do all of that, let's do the 4 brilliant things, because it's 2 great goals, and then it's 2 massively important ones.
It totally is. I think maybe part of this whole sort of uncertainty about where we are and things is we're not used to seeing Liverpool sort of win games in that manner, where it is, 2 very individual goals and then another 2 that are 2 moments of pure quality.
Not if
like
the attacker score.
No, it's not a great. None of them are great moves. That 3-4 players are involved in, and there's a good finish at the end of it. It is 4 individual really good kicks of the football, and I think the McAllister one goes up there as one of the best goals I've seen at Anfield. I think we talk about the Jordan Henderson one at Stamford Bridge a few years ago. It's that level of technical quality. If not more.
At Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering as well. There's a good keeper in goal there that they've scored all those against. He's a good shot stopper. The McAllister one was mad because I had not for a second I thought it was going in. Maybe from where I was sat.
I was going, why are you shooting?
Yeah,
don't shoot.
Yeah. Well, Klopp was funny, wasn't he? After the game.
No, I said hit it because it sits up. Genuinely, it sits up. It's lovely. It's lovely to be hit. But go on.
Yeah, but
Klopp after the game was like, I was watching him in shooting practice and thought it'd be a real shame if he didn't try to shoot today, and he obviously thought the same. So good on McAllister for having a go, because usually, you're in that position, you don't really expect them to, do you?
We'll do what went wrong, and we'll loop back around to what went right and the excellence in there, Josh. Fulham changed a fair bit of what they do. I saw them against United at home, and for instance, against United at home, they were determined repeatedly to play out from the back. Against Liverpool, they're determined to go long, hit Jimenez, have him occupy Van Dijk. That duel was just ongoing. Could sort of do without Jimenez turning into Bob Latchford every single time he comes to Anfield. One for the teenagers there, but it is what happens every single time. They block the lanes. Polina pulls to Liverpool's right, to Fulham's left, makes it awkward. I think he makes Szoboszlai's afternoon difficult in there. They do change a fair bit of what they do, but there's something else, and maybe it influences Liverpool. I just don't think Liverpool pass the ball very well. No. And that, to me, Josh, it almost becomes the defining part of the game. Liverpool's pass completion was 81% at home this season. Liverpool's average pass completion is 86%. And I think you get to see that, and a lot of the time the pass completion was poor was when Liverpool were moving towards Fulham's final third.
Well, this season, I think we've obviously benefited from a more technical midfield department, and I think 2 of the midfielders in particular who started were off it for me in terms of Szoboszlai, and towards the end of the game more Gravenberch in terms of just losing the ball and things like that. And I think there was moments where I personally missed Jones on the pitch, just as that kind of glue guy, that kind of player who just never loses the ball. And when he does lose it, he immediately regains it and you start that next wave. I thought we kind of suffered from that in certain moments. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought Fulham were really good. Going into the game, I'll be honest, I expected a clean sheet. And I expected a clean sheet because we had Kelleher in goal, and Fulham have no pace in the front line. So I figured we'd press them really, really high, pen them in for the entire game, and they just don't get out. That's what I expected. But they can play football, fair play to them. They've got good footballers in there, and they caused us a few issues. They were quite brave with the defensive line, I felt at times. Tom Kearney, I think it was man-marking Trent as well, and in certain points, and that's why I think towards the end, Trent goes as the fixed six, McAllister comes off, Gomez plays on the right, and that gives Tom Kearney a bit of a problem as to, do I go on the right or do I mark Trent in a bit of a different space now? So I thought Fulham were really good, yeah, and they took the chances. They were as good as they could possibly be, to be honest, thinking about it, and I think a lot of that was us letting them in. I think we can be better, but yeah, credit to them, to be fair.
Both wide players were brilliant for them, I thought, and Pereira as well. They switched the ball really, really well. I thought vertically, obviously they do get up the pitch with him.
I thought Iwobi was excellent.
He was brilliant, and even getting back, he was really good and made it really difficult.
That's the footballer that he is. Yeah. He's an all-round midfielder in a way, but he's used in an attacking position, if you see what I mean.
Totally, and they have been starting Willian, haven't they, usually? And I think Wilson starts instead this time, and he was also brilliant. The runs kind of going out to in were really good. I thought Liverpool with their passing, it felt in a really basic sense, they just kind of underhit everything. They gave Fulham so much hope when it came to pressing and nicking the ball, and I think when Liverpool do that, the next pass becomes really difficult because it isn't fired in, because it isn't sort of in a direction that these players are natural to sort of receiving it. It then becomes difficult for the next ball to be played, and we felt like we were caught offside a lot in that first half. Maybe because everyone was just sort of off it a bit, and runs were going slightly earlier than they should have been, and that was really weird to see so early on. But at the same time, having said that, Liverpool still got into really good positions to get shots off. But when you start like that, and when Liverpool tend to start like that, you kind of know what's going to happen for the rest of the game. I think that's the slight worry for me, that they couldn't never really sort of sort that out.
Yeah, it was a very, very strange Liverpool performance. Salah was pulling strings, but I couldn't see in the midfield, as you say, was strange. It was blunt, but the front three weren't getting shots away. I barely can count. I think a shot. I think Luis Diaz has a shot at some point in the game. But did Darwin Núñez have a shot? He did the one that hit the bar.
Núñez's first shot was about 60 minutes in, I think. But I think he ends up having about 4, to be fair to him. But
Núñez gets shots while you don't even know. He gets shots in his sleep.
Yeah.
But there's also whether or not you count the one where Salah's nodded it back to him, because I don't think he actually necessarily would count that in the numbers, because does he actually strike the ball? But he's there for it, and he's trying to strike the ball.
He does the motion, yeah.
Sure, but either way, it's not his best game. Salah doesn't.
Oh, no.
I don't think Salah gets a strike. Yeah, it's not his best game, but he's involved in the 2 pre-assists for the winning goals, Núñez, isn't he?
And he lays Szoboszlai off for the one that leads to the free kick that Trent scores from.
Yeah, exactly.
The Núñez thing, I'll talk to you about it, Rob, because I think it's dead interesting. I think Diaz is almost anonymous in the game. Liverpool can't get him in it, and I think this is a midfield thing more than a Diaz thing. The Núñez thing is, and this is the problem with him in a way, you just can't keep him out the action. But if that means he's not playing well, you can't keep him out the action, if you know what I mean. But I think within that, and the other thing is, when it goes wrong, it looks really badly wrong. So when the layoffs are bad, they look horrid. When they're quite good, you sort of see them as run-of-the-mill, but there was a number of them, as you mentioned there. It's a really good knockdown for Salah. Salah couldn't ask for any more from that knockdown for the Endo goal. And then what Salah does is then really good as well. He does pretty much make it perfect for Endo, and the way he's backing in as well means that there's going to be room for him to strike it. But I think there's this thing, isn't there, where I just thought Diaz wasn't involved at all. Núñez was involved. You take a lot of it as quite run of the mill, but I actually think his link up's quite good. But when it isn't good, it makes you go mad.
Yeah, I also think both him and Diaz really, the last couple of games, just whether there's a bit of fatigue post the international break, I don't know. Núñez contributes, but he's not quite the on fire. You can see when a sort of a blue touch paper's been lit in Núñez's head, and he's just everywhere, chaotic. I don't like to say he's a force of nature, he's chaotic, but he is. He imposes himself on a football match. I didn't feel he was that Núñez yesterday. Diaz in his own way too. Diaz has been, understandably so, for what he's been through, whether that's the reason or whether he's just going through a dip in form. He's not been the full effect Luis Diaz for me for the last month. Having said that, he's still hugely potent. We've been getting good results. He's an effective footballer. But that's the thing, we've got these options, and we're missing Jota at the moment, but Gakpo's able to possibly look the best attacker on the day, isn't he? In his short cameo, I don't know, but the bar was low.
The bar was low, and I'm stunned. I'm quite surprised, but anyway, nice. I like the positivity. I'm into it. Let's talk about the goalkeeper, Josh, as we're doing what's gone wrong. I think it's an awkward game for them. I think that they're awkward efforts. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that the sort of stuff that are nailed on should definitely be dealing with, and yet the nature of both of them makes you feel as though he should be. You know, the fact that there's touches on both of them, the fact that he doesn't feel as imposing as the player that he's replaced, which is a difficult thing to do because the player he's replaced is one of the most imposing people in world football, let's be clear about this. But you are left with concerns, and then even arguably the 5-10 minutes after Fulham make it both 2 and 3, he looks to me to be a little bit wobbly.
Yeah, it feels a bit harsh because the lad we're comparing him to is the best in the world for me. And I think first off as well, you should always kind of say with this sort of thing that like the bottom line really is stop the shot. If you can stop the shot, the keeper doesn't get any work then. But you can't do that to an extent where it's 100%. So over the course of a match, he's going to have some work to do. And I think the work he did have to do, as I said earlier, like the first 2 goals we concede, I think Alisson saves them. Maybe I'm giving the keeper too much credit there. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but if that happens, it is a completely different game in terms of like the course of it, the panic, the need.
Fulham get encouragement as well. I think this is a key thing. They're encouraged by the fact that they feel like we can score past this fella.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Liverpool's general defensive performance, it wasn't the best, but I think we still only faced something like 8 shots, and I think the XG is like 1.2 or something like that, wasn't it? Maybe something like that. So
what's ours? 0.2.
Ours was 2.5.
Ours was
2.5.
Yeah,
we did enough to win, like in attack and that,
but our 4 goals must have had a combined XG of 0.1.
Obviously quite low, the 4 goals. But the point is, the Salah misses from where he is. This isn't even counting the Nunez one that he should strike. There's also the Nunez one that hits the bar. There's enough in there that sort of does add up over the course of it to put Liverpool. I think it's about 2.3, and as I say, Fulham at about 1.3.
Yeah, but this is I suppose a bit of a concern that we've got with the kind of Christmas period coming. We've got quite a few games with a goalkeeper in there who is just not as watertight as Alisson is. And after the game, in his post-match presser, Klopp spoke about Liverpool's press being a bit of an issue and the fact McAllister was kind of left isolated and stuff. And if you've got a goalkeeper in who's not as good of a shot stopper, that needs to be resolved. Your press needs to be really on the money, because then the ball stays away from your goal and the keeper doesn't get any work, basically. But if you're playing with a bit of a dodgy keeper, not a dodgy keeper, but if you're playing with a keeper who's not as good and your press is a bit off it, you're then going to face more shots and he's going to have more work to do, and he's going to be more susceptible to making some of these errors.
I think the Liverpool defence relies on Alisson to command quite an unnatural amount of space as well. I think putting that expectation on Keller and coming in kind of from the cold as well. I think the big thing for me is he is a second choice goalkeeper at the end of the day. He is your backup goalkeeper. So, the expectation just purely in that sense, regardless of having the best one in the world in front of him, I think, you have to sort of remember. I think the first goal is difficult. I think, it happens to keepers. It happens to Alisson. It goes through the legs. It's unlucky. I think that the second one's where I'm at, where I think he should do better. And I think that comes from the demeanour, that comes from the physical stature. But I think I have faith that it will improve, especially on the ball and the slight tetchiness that was in the ground when it was in and around him. I think that sorts itself out the more he plays. Really, I think that's as simple as it is with him.
I think the verdict on him, particularly in this game, is going to be clearer with how he does in the next few games, to be honest with you. Because we literally said, we're going to say the first time he concedes a goal, Alisson wouldn't concede that. I mean, I was on shows where we all said, we're bound to say that, aren't we? Well, here we are doing exactly that. They are. I think if he goes on to have 2 really top performances, and God, bloody hell, Kelleher was good. We've underrated him. It just say that happens in the next 2 years. I think we're then going to look back on this and be a bit more forgiving. But it's hard to see in isolation because we do, as you said, Josh, we do have that Alisson bias in our heads. I agree with also something else you said, which is, we can't be allowing our keeper to face shots from that close in. That's the problem there. Yeah. But I did come away from the game thinking, as you said, was it 8 shots or something? I thought they didn't really have that many sighters. Not really in the course of the game. We didn't make many good chances ourselves, but they didn't have many sighters. We can overbeat ourselves up about that as a defensive performance.
In terms of what went right, Rob? Let's talk about the quality of the efforts first and foremost. These are beautiful, beautiful goals. All of them, really. The Endo finish is terrific. It's one where you sort of can have a look at it from one angle and maybe think, oh, maybe the keeper should just about get there, but it literally hits the roof of the net. It doesn't just hit the back of the net. It's still rising at the point where it crosses the line. It really is. He emphatically passes it into the goal. That's a great goal. The McAllister one is spectacular. The free kick is terrific. But even the final finish from Trent is exactly the sort of finish that you want in the 90th minute. It's into the ground. It's making sure the keeper's got a question to answer. These are really, really good Liverpool goals in terms of the way in which they're struck.
Yeah, the Trent efforts, this was his most Gerrard facsimile game ever. I mean, the free kick's a Gerrard-esque free kick where it comes off of the crossbar, one against Villa or something like that, comes to the fore of the mind. But the finish, quietly, because I think he's under the most stress whilst taking it. The final goal is up. You can make it's possibly not spectacular as the others, but you can make a case for it being the best of them. And it's definitely the most Gerrard-like goal, where it's almost sheer will to make something happen, to win the game for his team. A combination of peak Gerrard and peak the Kop sucking a ball in. It's just the most fantastic Liverpool goal of the Aeon, shall we say? I can't pick a period of time. But they are the McAllister one. I mean, it's all, as you said, Fu, it's one of the best. It's hard to think of its type. Again, you'd have to go back to alleged Gerrard strike, maybe the one against Borough at the Kop end where he bends it on the volley into the far top corner. Hard to think of a different one. I will digress to briefly rant at the fact that Trent's free kick isn't given to him. I don't care if it grazed the keeper's spine on the way in. The football has to. Sometimes you have a conversation about the fact of what you call an own goal or not, because I think giving own goal as a statistic to defenders who haplessly turn their back and it just happens to flick off them is pointless. It's a negative statistic. The protagonist of that, the person who makes that goal happen is Trent Alexander with a genius of a strike. And it's not that it bounced off the bar at a 45-degree angle, hit a defender on the line and then went in. I don't know. I haven't seen the fine replays back. Is it no way going in if the keeper had just gone for a walk?
I don't think you can say that. And there's every chance that, for instance, if the keeper wasn't there, the spin on the ball and
I was thinking
spin back in.
That's my impression. And I know that's not what you wanted me to rant about. But I felt there was a point in 1995. Like Ian Rush probably has got 10% less goals to his tally, and everyone before 96, if you count their own goals, because you could be going slightly wide of a post, but if you twatted it in the general direction, it was your goal, whether it deflected or not. Ball across the box, that's different gravy. But anyway, yes, they were great strikes. The end. Finn.
Ignore your dad there. Let's not worry about it.
Well, your dad's got a point sometimes.
No, I think I both agree with you, and also ultimately just the statistic that matters to me is always Liverpool one more goal than they had in each other beforehand. I agree. So yeah, but I do agree. I do agree with your point in general. I genuinely do.
I do think in the after it would be nice to be talking about the first 2-goal Trent game. It would be nice to, really crowd.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just that general sense of momentum.
Well, and yes, I do like a brace. So no, I do honestly take your general point. I'm being mean, and I apologise.
It's okay.
I do apologise. To me, there's something in his all-round game, though, Josh. Having criticised, I would, with again maybe a possible exception towards McAllister. I don't think I think there's some Liverpool players who aren't passing well and whose decision making is wrong. I think there's some Liverpool players who just are having a bit of misfortune with the pass and the decision making is right. Salah, for instance, is the one that falls into that category. I think only really McAllister and Trent, so McAllister comes off, are the two I feel as though are consistently making the right decision and are also executing it pretty well. And I think that all round Trent Alexander-Arnold has a really good game.
Yeah, I think it was right up there with his best. I thought he was outstanding. Very complete performance. I thought it was kind of like a bit of a hybrid performance between like a peak Gerrard and a peak Beckham, I felt, in terms of like how he imposed himself on the game. It wasn't through sheer force like a top level Gerrard performance. There was just so much technique and quality in there where he's just kind of gliding and he's almost a step ahead in his mind at times. Occupies a number of different positions during the game, looks at ease in every one of them, scores the winning goal 2 weeks in a row now in the Premier League. I think there's
Decisive goal. The City one's a 1-1.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
Don't tell him. He was we won at City. I was enjoying it.
Thanks for that. Take the assist there. But yeah, I think he's just kind of. I think this is the most complete version of Trent that we've seen, and he's getting that complete. That this kind of conversation about him becoming a full-time midfielder, it does genuinely have legs now. It really does. And Klopp is always really keen to downplay it. I can understand to some extent why. And especially considering we've just signed 4 midfielders over the summer, there's kind of a bit less of a need for that now. But he's just such a complete player, and to the extent where for Liverpool to just be on the game, for Liverpool to be dominating the game and playing really well, you almost just need to give him the keys to the team, and wherever on the pitch, whatever role he's going to be most effective in, play him there and almost figure out the rest later.
I think it's difficult, isn't it, with him and Szoboszlai? I agree with everything Josh has said there, because I feel like almost it's difficult for both of them to be as excellent as they can be together at the same time. And I'm not saying Szoboszlai necessarily suffers about that, but a lot of yesterday I was sort of thinking it'd be nice if he just went at right back for a little while and let Trent, because if he's doing what he was doing and was as dominant in every area, I'm at the point with him now where it's the first time I've been at this point with him where I just want him to shoot. I'm always really against that, and even when people have said before we need to be in those positions more, now I'm at the stage where when he's in that area, when he's in the D, that's where he belongs. That's where at the moment his technique is supreme. It's far better than anyone else in the team at the moment, and the fourth goal is a brilliant piece of technique, because the touch is difficult. It's dipping down, and the way he sort of wraps his body around it and gets that bit of swerve and dip from that range is beyond world class. So I think Liverpool now have to sort of build around that a lot more, and if that means sacrificing a midfield player in terms of their role, in terms of Szoboszlai not being that all-star kind of player as we've seen earlier on, and that might be for his benefit as well in terms of preserving his energy and everything like that, I think that will get the best out of Trent, giving him that freedom, like Josh says, the keys to the team. And with that, the goals will come, but the creativity will come as well in games where it is tough, in this period where there are lots of games and we need to preserve.
Aren't they giving him the keys to the team with the inverted role?
Yeah.
Isn't that the thing that the inverted role is meant to do, which is he gets the keys to the team from there?
Yeah.
But also on this, I think and Rob can come in as well, you can come in. I watched Match Today 2 last night and I was really frustrated. I'm frustrated by the conversation because people act as though it's...
The genius thing after it.
Yeah. People act as though the conversation becomes whether you pick Trent Alexander-Arnold or Szoboszlai.
Yeah.
The conversation isn't that. The conversation is whether you pick Joe Gomez or Szoboszlai.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that to me is why this is a much more complicated conversation than just you go and do that, because you ultimately someone else has to. If you're not going to play right back, someone else has to play right back,
exactly,
and you've got one fewer attacking player on the pitch.
Yeah.
At that period of time, which is also one fewer player for Trent to pass to, one player fewer to be occupying the opposition in that sort of sense. That's where you end up.
I didn't mean for him to play in midfield and for Szoboszlai to play right back. I just meant positionally in when Liverpool are going forward.
But what I mean though is that if he occupies that position, someone else has to play right back.
Totally.
And you've took an attacking option off Liverpool's team.
Totally.
Yeah, almost makes Liverpool weaker to some extent.
And this is the conversation. Yeah. The conversation isn't like if you could have 2 Trent Alexander-Arnolds, then that's sound.
We said that last week.
If you can have 2 of them, if you can clone him, then then the conversation is: do you pick McAllister or Trent? Do you pick Szoboszlai or Trent because you're picking Trent at right back? But that's not the conversation. The conversation is: do you pick Alexis McAllister or Joe Gomez? Do you pick Dominic Szoboszlai or Joe Gomez?
Well, I think if you look at the midfield now, the way Trent plays, he's basically playing a lot of the time as a midfielder. We are seeing Trent play as a midfielder because when Liverpool have the ball,
but a deep lying one though most of the time when he's in the hybrid role, he's a control.
But I don't have an issue with that personally.
I do because of for the reasons I think the goals.
Yeah.
You know what? If you've got somebody who can from XG positions around outside the edge of the box where it's less than 0.1, who can overperform that XG, and they almost apart from McAllister who's now showed he can too. If you've got someone who can reliably do them, we had a freak of nature doing it in Gerrard for years, but Gerrard was, apart from 1 or 2 other luminaries, was surrounded by players who were nowhere near his level. Well, I'd argue that Trent has more players near his level. So imagine we had Gerrard in this team. I know some cynics would go, but he'd upset the whole balance. Well, I don't think so. I think Klopp would love to have him. I think we can in danger of overthinking it sometimes. I think if you're starting again, if a new manager was in and the pass was torn up and it was somebody we respected, they might go, oh yeah, Trent's the best midfielder. He plays. Szoboszlai's possibly the next best midfielder. He plays. And you can decide who's left and who's right, and they can interchange. And McAllister get his first dibs at number 6. But hey, you know what? Curtis Jones can also drop in there too, and McGravenberch is a sub. Yes, you've got Gomez out at right back. He's not the same as I've seen that Trent fella when he used to play right back, but he's still pretty handy. He's defensively very solid. He's not too shabby when he gets up and down. He's not going to really come in field for you that much if you want to play a hybrid role. I think it can work. My biggest issue with sort of committing to the idea of Trent as an attacking number 8, which is what we saw in that last 20 minutes yesterday or so, is that Gomez then becomes your main right back option, and you can't play him week in, week out. His body doesn't allow that. And that means, to me, you begin to anchor doesn't mean you can't do it occasionally, but you can begin to anchor the team quite quietly around a fella who can't turn up every week because of his fitness issues.
When Liverpool make those subs, by the way, they were awful after that. I thought when McAllister comes off and it's Gravenberch and Trent.
He's injured, McAllister, by the way.
Is he?
He had a knock bang to the thigh, according to Neil Jones.
Well, when they make that change, it felt like, until obviously Trent gets the goal at the end, but it didn't feel like he was on the ball or as influential as much as he was before that. It felt like everything was going to Joe Gomez, and Joe Gomez was the one finding himself in loads of space. He inverted as well, and that's not what any of us really wanted. So that's where I was a bit like, you can do this, but you can do this with the personnel, and it's just about intelligence and sometimes a Szoboszlai sacrificing a certain bit of his play in phases. And I think it's something that's fluid. Right now, Trent's in this moment, as the manager likes to say, where he is in that kind of unplayable, everything he hits is going in phase. So why not capitalize on that with the personnel? We don't need to necessarily change everything. It's just an on the field kind of tweak.
Yeah, the whole Trent thing, I think it would. It wouldn't be as much of a drastic change, I think, as the pundits who don't religiously follow Liverpool talk about, to be honest. I think it impacts two major things, really. One is negative and one is I suppose positive. I think the negative is what you mentioned earlier, Neil, in terms of Gomez would basically become a regular starter, because you'd need someone to play as a right back if Trent's not there. Our only other right back option really is Joe Gomez, so Joe Gomez becomes a starter, and Liverpool as an 11 potentially become less dangerous, less threatening. But then there's the other side of the coin, where if Trent was to become a full-time midfielder, he's permanently in the middle. So then he would never we would never see him occupying those right-back defensive spots, facing up wingers 1v1, which we know he kind of struggles with at times. He would never really be overly caught out in transition, because he's got his fixed holding spot in the middle. And a lot of Liverpool supporters over the years are frustrated with that kind of right-sided weakness that seems to get targeted every single week. Would that still be the case if Trent was to become a midfielder, move away from that permanently, and we was to basically play a centre-half there like Gomez?
But I think there's something else as well, which is that I think it necessitates a change of shape. I don't think it works with him necessarily at 4-3-3, where part of the Szoboszlai job, it's a little bit less because of Szoboszlai, but it is to facilitate Salah and to facilitate Trent. That's part of that job, and when it was Henderson, it was even more so that's what it was.
Yeah.
But it's to facilitate those other footballers still. If you sort of see what I mean. I think it necessitates another tactical change. If you see what I mean, I think it makes more sense to me if we're going to play 4-4-2.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think we're going to play... I wouldn't mind seeing a bit more 4-4-2 from time to time. I take Fuad's point. I think we are a bit crap after the subs, but I think the manager almost thinks these aren't passing well. With the exception of Trent, they're not passing well. I might say, well, have 4 forwards on the pitch who are all more dangerous, and say to Trent, can you just get the ball forward to them, please, because you're the only one. It's almost a bit agricultural from the manager. I'm fine with it, not least because it also pays off for him. But I think, Josh, the idea of what that number 8 role is, a lot of it is, can you run outside Salah, please, to create space for Salah to come in?
Yeah.
Can you back Salah up in those moments? Can you fill in when Trent goes walkabout a little bit? And I think that Szoboszlai is a bit of a problem against Fulham, in that I don't think he does that very well. But can you go and fill in a little bit when he comes loose and do a bit of that? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't think it's as clean as, well, he just goes and plays there and the shape stays the same. I don't think that is the case at all.
No, I agree, especially with Gomez filling in for him, because Gomez is a completely different kind of player, and when we've asked Gomez to invert, I think he can do it to an okay level, but he's not like a natural doing it and like that. I mean, we do. It's important to say as well. Klopp does want those 4 players in the middle of the park. But Liverpool, throughout their peak, had 4 players in the middle of the park with 3 centre mids and Firmino, basically. Now with Núñez no longer doing that, kind of staying high, you're getting that fourth body as the inverted fullback. We've always got 4 in the middle. We've always had 4 in the middle.
Do you think Diaz has been dragged more into the midfield, though? I feel he has a bit. I feel Núñez and Salah are given license to be higher. I know Núñez...
I think this is one of the reasons we miss Jones.
Yeah.
When I think Jones makes Diaz make more sense.
I
think if you look at the big 9 of the running last season, I think Jones going outside Diaz allowed Diaz to come a little bit narrower. That Jones could occupy the fullback on the outside was really, really helpful.
Yeah.
It allowed Diaz to come. Diaz and Jones could almost interchange a little bit, and in a way that made sense for everyone. And then Jones could ghost into space when Diaz is occupied and pulled in. I think Diaz fine. I like Gravenberch a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think Gravenberch will start against Sheffield, but I also don't think necessarily Diaz will either. But I think Diaz finds it hard to play with Gravenberch because Gravenberch only wants to go one way, which is to come inside and be really direct with the ball, which I think is really good, by the way. It's not a criticism. Whereas I think Jones is more of again, it's back to this idea of who your facilitators are. And I think that Gravenberch is a little bit less of a facilitator as an 8
I agree.
than other Liverpool players have been. And I think Diaz finds it harder when that's the case.
Yeah, I also think Gravenberch is a bit more inclined to kind of look diagonal when he's playing in terms of passing options.
That way,
he's always heading towards Salah. He's carrying the ball in that direction all of the time.
Yeah,
he's feeding the
he's
ball
gone
in
pen
that
spot.
direction. Yeah.
He's gone pen spot. I think the other thing that also makes it a little bit harder for Diaz is I think Shimikas, who I thought played really well, by the way, but I think Shimikas consistently with his run only wants to go outside.
Yeah.
Whereas Robertson loves an underlap. Robertson loves to run pen spot. And what that does is that pulls a man out the way. I think Diaz is finding ball carrying a little bit difficult at the minute. And I don't think it's necessarily because he's no longer very good at ball carrying. I think it's more he's constantly looking up and there's 2 looking at him. So it's almost like, well, if I beat the first one, I'm gonna lose it anyway.
Yeah.
And so, but I think he needs a run there that someone pulls that at least puts a bit of doubt in the mind of the second one, which is what Robertson does really well.
Yeah.
But Shimikas is a much more traditional option, and he will just go round to the left, and he hasn't got Jones either in there. And I think that all of that's making it actually a little bit difficult on that side of the pitch.
Yeah, I think if you look at Jones as well, what he kind of offers in comparison as a different sort of profile, he's just a lot more inclined to kind of probe in those areas, little 5-yard passes, keeping the ball in that area a lot of the time. And I think if you put Gravenberch in there, it does impact the dynamic. And I think it's given Diaz maybe a bit more work on the attacking side and maybe a little bit more rushed at times. But that's why one of the reasons why I felt we missed Jones over the weekend. That's one of the reasons I think he'll come in against Sheffield United.
That was my problem with the subs and the change of shape at that point. It felt like we brought on Gakpo turned into a bit of a facilitator, but in midfield there wasn't quite that facilitating player in terms of making those runs. It felt like Gravenberch very much wanted to do what he was doing before and be out wide and come back in. And then when Endo comes on, it feels like there is a bit more of that stability. And if anything, it felt they were more likely to score at that point. Every time they went forward, it was a bit like Anthony Robson has that shot, doesn't he, which Kelleher saves. But even before that and after that, they felt very dangerous. I don't know if it was in response to what they do. I don't know if it was pre-planned, because just before that, Kenny comes on, doesn't he? Willian comes on as well. So I don't know if Liverpool thought, well, they're settling here a little bit in terms of solidifying in that area. He is, isn't he? And he's different to what he was before, wasn't he? Where he felt a bit more of an attacking midfielder. He was a lot smarter this time round. But yeah, no, I think, look, at the end of the day, to go from the 3-3 to the 4-3 is huge. I think you can't underestimate that. I think that's massive. I don't think lots of football teams can do that, even top quality ones, as consistently as we do. It's worth remembering Arsenal draw against them, don't they, at home? And they don't go get that winner like we do. So that's a real thing for them to all kind of remind themselves of and use going forward.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, we forced that winner by the way. I mean, it's an exceptional finish, but it comes out of after a passage of play, doesn't it? I think Diaz has had a shot just before. Gakpo has the shot that forces it. Is it Núñez who keeps the ball alive? Yeah. So I mean, we do very much force it. I think it's just listening to everyone talking about these options. I think the options is the key thing, and what it enables Klopp to do. I think if he's listening, he goes, it just enables me to keep twisting at every stage, and that's what we did. So we just kept twisting and twisting until it went right. Eventually, you can argue this.
It felt quite Ferguson to me in a good way. That idea of I think there's nothing wrong, and I also, Rob, I think it sends a bit of a message to the players. 4 forwards on now, lads. You know what I want? I want to win the game. I think even if you're not sure, there's 4 forwards on now, so you know what it means. And all the while, and I think there's nothing wrong with. I think that's a good way to phrase it. Just to keep twisting, just to make it different again and different again and different again.
Yeah, and it sets us up perfectly to be able to rotate as well, because as much as you can twist, you can go, well, a different set of lads. We could make I was watching the game with partially with Steve Graves yesterday, and was talking about the fact that for the first time in sort of my Liverpool watching memory, certainly for the last 20 years, we've got as deeper as first 11 level squad as I think we've ever had. In as much as in even the very best of, say, 18 or 19, 20, 21, you go, this is the best 11, or the arguably best 11 in the world at times. Who could you bring in? 3, 4 of them could be interchangeable before you're taking a bit of a weakening situation. With the front three, you'd have to dip down to an Origi, for example, or a Minamino, and even James Milner at his pomp is not peak Henderson and peak Fabinho. So we were doing that. There was that kind of compromise. Now I think if you look at it, I counted about 17, 18. I think, and this is what gives us the options, and this is what we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks.
Excellent stuff. Here is John Gibbons speaking to Helen Poole about her excellent Liverpool-based children's fiction.
It's John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap, and I'm joined in our studio by the illustrator, author and creator of these wonderful books, the Fields of Anfield Road series. Helen, thanks so much for coming in to see us.
You're welcome. Nice to be back, because I was here when it first came out, wasn't
that's right. A few years ago to talk about this first one. There is a newer one out, but for people who maybe need the memory jogging a little bit, tell us a little bit more about how the book came about the club approaching you, and our Fields family.
Well, there was actually a funny story about how it came about, because I was actually in the bath and I was lying there and I just thought, wouldn't it be lovely to do a book for Liverpool? So I started daydreaming it. I was in the bath and I got quite into it. I was like, oh yeah, and I pictured myself holding the book, and I pictured it in the shops, and I did picture me and Jürgen holding the book together.
Trying to manifest it.
Yeah, I was. Well, I didn't know I was trying to manifest it at the time. It was just a little thought I had. And then the next day, honest to God, I was contacted by a buyer from Liverpool saying, did I want to come in, because she'd seen me other books and didn't want to come and do a book for Liverpool. And I was like, I've just created that with my mind. It felt so powerful. But I've got to be honest, that was 2019, and I still haven't met Jürgen, so come on, universe, get on it. So then I knew that, they wanted a children's book, and I wanted to go down the route of a family that people could relate to, with their match day rituals and their what they do when they lose, and their pets named after
different managers.
Different, yeah. So we've got Shankly the dog, and we've got Firmino the fish, who I still miss. And if you look at Firmino the fish, has actually got a fin over his eye. Got to be eagle-eyed to spot that. So I wanted it to be relatable, and I wanted it to be read with different generations. That's how I designed it, because even though it's a children's book, I did actually design it with adults in mind as well. So I've put references to players from the past and managers from the past, and the idea was that, dads, granddads, mums would say, that was my favourite player back in the day. So the kids are learning about the history of the club, as well as seeing players that they recognise themselves.
And that's it, isn't it? Because so many of us are trying to share our love of Liverpool Football Club. That's a nice way of saying brainwash. So many of us are trying to share our love of Liverpool Football Club with our little ones, but it can be quite tricky, isn't it? Because you might buy them a kit or a nice couple of t-shirts or something, and they love the goals, when you're watching them and stuff like that, and they love Mo Salah. But trying to teach them a little bit more about the history and stuff like that, so it can be quite hard when they're young. So something like this is really accessible, isn't it? It's got little stories about the legends, about famous days, goals supporting Liverpool, and it's just really nice.
And my favourite spread is the one with the granddad. It's a little bit before that, where he's going through the years of his Champions League.
This one, it's got all the kits and the haircuts and
the different and 70s Kevin Keegan haircuts and the 80s.
I mean, that's the Teddy Mac, that.
And the different, kits and that. So that was probably my favourite spread to draw in that book. But I've had loads of good reviews from both, you know, children and adults. Like there are adults who've bought it for themselves, you know, if they collect things, and you know, and the reviews have been brilliant. So I couldn't ask for more, really.
So this was the first one, The Fields of Anfield Road, which came out a few years ago.
2019 that came out, yeah.
And then Liverpool immediately won the league.
Well, yeah, so I do take a little bit of credit for that, to be honest, because, you know, it had taken 30 years, hadn't it? My book comes out, we suddenly win it, so, you know. So
let's hope the new one is equally as lucky.
Well, to be honest, when I was making this, we were online for the quad, so I did save a page to celebrate potentially the quad in there, but didn't quite happen. But
didn't quite happen. We had to make the 2 with 2. So this is the new book. It is The Fields of Anfield Road again and the LFC Treasure Hunt. So tell us a little bit more about this one.
So the same family, and we, you know, see what they've been up to since we last left them. There's been a FA Cup and a League Cup win since then, and then there's suddenly a big Liverpool treasure hunt announced. So they go into this treasure hunt park, and the team that finds all the Liverpool artefacts in the shortest time wins a big Liverpool prize. So the fields enter themselves, and it's about trying to find, you know, all the items on the list. So again, I put different players in this one. Like I met Steve McMahon at, you know, one of the Legends tours, and I showed him my book, and I had to tell him he wasn't in it. So I said, "But don't worry, I'll put you in the next one." So I have.
So when you see Steve McMahon again, you'll be able to say you were as good as you were.
I'll have to book in for another tour and say, "Here you go."
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. So if, you know, I obviously can't include everybody in there, but I've tried to, you know, either mention them in the text or put a little something in the background, like a shirt with the name on or something like that, to try and give a nod. You know, there's some paving stones with different numbers on and stuff, so I've tried to include as many as possible. But there's only 32 pages, and we have a lot of legends.
There is so much detail in there, though, and I think that's probably you trying to include as much as possible. But if you go on to sort of, you know, some of the pages, there was a scene from the house, I think.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm just sort of flicking through that one, where there is just sort of so much, and every time you look at it, there's another little thing.
It took me about a week to do that. Just that one spread, because there was so much detail in it, like all the players' heads and the players in the back, you know, the legends in the background. I did meet, not long after that came out, I weirdly, again, it must have been another university thing, but I suddenly thought, I need to take me book with me. I was going out for afternoon tea for my cousin's birthday, and we went to the Hilton. And I had it in my bag, and as soon as we walked in, John Barnes was in there. So I was like that with the waitress, going, "Please, can you just go over and like ask him if he'll have a look at my book?" So I went over, and he saw himself in it, and he said, "Oh, could you make me look thinner next time?" I said, "Hey, John, I've drawn you in your prime there."
Well, he looks perfectly fine to me. So there we are. So if people want to buy these, they can go to your website. They're also available in the club shops.
They are. I went in yesterday, and in the Anfield store, they're kind of, as you go in, they're kind of in the middle to the left. They're on stands, so I'm not sure where they are in the other shops, but if you can't find them, ask for the Fields children's books, because they will be there. And they're also on, if you go onto my website, which is helenpoole.com. I said pool, really scousing, didn't I? helenpoole.com. There'll be a link to my shop, which links to Etsy, and you can, if you order through there, I can sign them for you. So put a little like I'm going to sign for your son.
Yeah, that was very kind of you. Yeah, very, very kind of you indeed.
As a thank you for having me on. So you can order them on there, sign them, and you know they'll be in time for Christmas. So they're £7 each. So
bargain.
Yeah, and as I say, the first book has sold really, really well. So we want the second book to to do just as well as the first.
Well, let's give it all a little bit of boost. £7, absolute bargain for these wonderful, wonderful books. And if someone wants something a little bit extra special for Christmas as well, for a little one as well,
this is my new little venture, because a few people had asked me for these, so I decided to have a go. These are Liverpool, these are prints, so I do family prints. So normally if people want, you know, their family drawing, I'll draw them like this. But a few people have said, oh, could you draw me child with Mo Salah or whatever? So this is Joe with Mo Salah. So this also, you can message me through Twitter to order these, or it'll be on the Etsy site as well to order. So for two characters like that, is it still on? Yeah. Well, with Mo Salah, it's cheaper because Mo Salah's already drawn. So I think it's £40 for one child or one person. It doesn't have to be a child. I've had a few orders since I announced this the other day. I've had a few people with, you know, for their wives, for their husbands, want pictures with Jurgen Klopp and Mo Salah and Stevie G and stuff. So yeah, so I'm happy to draw it. I'm going to do one of myself with Jurgen because this get the manifestation going. Yeah. But if you're watching Jurgen, you know, contact me, and I need a hug. I need a Klopp hug. That's me number one goal in life, to be honest.
Well, this is a good start towards making that happen. Make sure you go to Helen's website. What is it again?
HelenPoole.com.
HelenPoole.com.
Yeah, and on social media, Twitter, etc., it's Helen Poole Books.
And that's Helen Poole with an E.
With an
very
E,
crucially,
yeah.
not like
Liverpool.
Helen Poole with an E. Thanks so much for coming in, for showing these fantastic books, for the little things as well. I'm off to order a picture of me with Craig Hannon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great stuff from John and Helen there. Sort of half moving along and half not, Rob. I liked the 4-2-4 when Salah went close to Nunez. Matip obviously looks like he will be out for an extended period.
Is it that bad?
It just looks like it. I mean, I saw what you saw in the ground.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying here. I don't. My point here is I don't think he's playing against Sheffield United.
No.
And you know, McAllister with a bit of a bang on the thigh. It'll be interesting to see what sort of happens here. Liverpool won a close one in 18-19 and 21-22 in this week. I had a little look back at this week because the manager is obsessed with this week, I think, and he does mad things. There's a 5-2 against Everton where he picks a bit of a mad side. That one of those gets lashed in. He picks a mad side away at Burnley and he makes subs, and Liverpool go on to win the game. They go 1-0 down, they pull it back to 3-1. I said before about Divock against Marco Silva's Everton in terms of the 1-0 in there. My point here is this is the week where he does one, if not two, mad things, mad subs. The Wolves away game, where Origi scores the winner late on. His subs that day are quite unorthodox in there as well. The shape of the team changes during that one as it wears on. My point here is I think, you know, Sheffield United, they're likely to have a new manager. The players don't suddenly become better. They might be a bit peppier. But I think they've got no idea what Liverpool they're facing. No,
I think, as the point I was making earlier, that I think that we're less likely to notice Klopp throwing in, if you want to categorise it as a mad one, because of the depth of the first team level squad and the interchangeability of players. So, for example, I came out of that before I realised, finding out later that McAllister had a bang, thinking, do you know what? Just for rotation's sake, put Endo in. Give him. Would it be his first Premier League start, maybe, or his second Premier League start? I think Endo has played his best football for Liverpool in his last game and a half, and I think it's certainly if McAllister's a risk because of a bit of an injury, I'd start Endo in this one. Now, is that a mad one, whether McAllister was fit or not? I don't think it necessarily is. I don't know who would be. Is Jones a mad one? Is Gakpo a mad one? Who's mad? Ben Doak would be a mad one. I suppose that's not beyond the bounds of possibility. I think we're quite likely to see Ben Doak off the bench in a Premier League game or two in the next fortnight. That's for sure. But I think Kwanzaa may well find himself in a Premier League start. So that's how far down the squad will go. But I don't think, let's put it this way, do I think there could be 5 or 6 changes for Chef U? Yeah, I do, actually. Without beginning to count them up, we can start the exercise if you like. But
start the exercise if you want. I think my view is, and I could even be wrong about this, but I think there's 5 who I think are going to start. So I think Kelleher will start, Arnold will start, Konate will start, Van Dijk will start, and Salah will start. Yeah. And I think beyond that, I think 2 of Nunez, Diaz and Gakpo will start, although it wouldn't surprise me if it was just 1, because it wouldn't surprise me if he has a think about going 4-4-2. But let's just sort of, I mean, you come on to that point if you want, but I think 2 of those will start. I think it's reasonable to be able to make a list of midfielders. I think if McAllister was fully fit, I think he will start. But apart from that, I don't think it's nailed on Szoboszlai. I think it's unlikely Gravenberch, at which point then you sort of having that chat. I don't think it's nailed on Tsimikas. Or be asked to go 3 times in a week at left back. I don't think that's nailed on.
No.
I think it's possible. So, I'll give you, if we want to all agree, can we all agree? Kelleher, Trent, Konate, Van Dijk and Salah start?
Yeah, how many is that? 5?
That's 5. So if you want to tell me who you think the other 6 are?
The Tsimikas one is a difficult one, but I think Jones. I feel that I think the way is to look at the opposition first and foremost here in this sequence, which was a very, very intense set of fixtures. Sheffield away is the easiest game we've got pre-December 25th. It's the easiest, but without wanting to be complacent. So, funnily enough, I would have actually thought there was a case for Quansah, but no, because Konate's not been in, and as you say, him and Van Dijk picked themselves. Who have you got at left back outside of, if you want to give Tsimikas a rest? You could give Tsimikas a rest against Palace. You might say that they're lively and therefore Gomez might be, lively up front, sorry. Gomez might be a better fit at Palace as in the left back position, notwithstanding all I wanting to see Trent in midfield. So I think Tsimikas will go again, in my opinion. I think Endo will start. That's my gut feel. I think Jones will come in. I think Szoboszlai probably goes again, unless this would be where it's getting a bit mad. Does Elliott come in? So is he going to go Endo, Jones, Elliott, which suddenly feels like a UEFA Cup midfield? Although that's to disrespect those players. And in the forward positions, it's Salah plus 1 from 2. Yeah, that's how I look.
2 from 3, surely.
Sorry, plus 2 from 3. Yes, sorry, 2 from 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think you're right on Tsimikas. He probably does need some sort of rest coming up. But then the last time he got that rest, it was Gomez who came in, and Gomez is a completely different left back. He's right-footed. He's a centre half of trade. He doesn't, for that reason, overlap as much. Doesn't provide as much width. And if you think of what we're going to come up against Sheffield United, we're probably going to need those elements. So you would like Tsimikas playing. Maybe put Gomez in there when Liverpool are going to be a bit more
Palace
transition based, or maybe just play Tsimikas until you've won the game. Hopefully you get the game won on the hour or even at half time or something, and manages minutes like that rather than giving them complete rest, because I think we need that kind of left-footed left back profile who will give us some width, because I think we lacked that a little bit against Luton. Even though we created enough to win the game, I think we lacked it a little bit. And I think Szoboszlai starts personally because he only plays about an hour against Fulham. But yeah, other than that, it's difficult to determine.
There is an 8-day rest actually after Palace, isn't there? If you discount the Union SG dead rubber, Liverpool don't play a serious competitive game between Palace Saturday morning and Man United Sunday following. So it's an 8-day rest. So the other counterpoint is he may be inclined to let them power through certain ones beyond Neil's key 5. So Tsimikas could be one asked to power through, I'd argue. I think
Gakpo starts as well. I think he sort of has to.
Yes.
Just given the games and also what he does when he comes on. He does change it in terms of his running, in terms of how he sort of just created something a little bit out of nothing for the final goal, didn't he, with the shot and the rebound. So I think he comes in. I think we could see that 4-4-2 like Neil's saying. I think if we do that, then Tsimikas would be really important to see, just to give us, like Josh saying, that width, and also just pegging them back. I think it's a game that Liverpool would want to just totally control, and that's why probably in an ideal world McAllister would start, because the manager sees him as his one to sort of ensure that happens.
I think that's why you probably introduced Jones as well, just for that reason, just the ability to pen them in.
The thing I wondered before I found out about this McAllister knock, Josh, would be if he's going to go 4-3-3, if he might be tempted to go Endo, McAllister and Jones.
Yeah.
And have the idea of they're going to be penned in. They're going to want to be penned in almost in a way. They're going to create a bit of a shell. So do you have the lads sitting behind the front three who constantly recycle possession, who are constantly moving it left and right, who've got good touch, who are looking to bring people into play? I just sort of wonder. McAllister was always that idea that I thought it was odd in pre-season at times when he was playing right side at 8. But I wonder if maybe, just maybe, he thinks, I want me runners for Palace. I want me direct runners for Palace. I'll have me lads who look after the ball for Sheffield United, because the plan is that we're going to absolutely dominate territory, dominate the ball, and I want the lads who pick the clever passes.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point. And I think obviously if McAllister is kind of out, there's obviously the option there of Trent being the fixed six from the start, and Gomez maybe being a right back. But
I'd have Jones. If there's no, I wouldn't. I said there'd be a shout for Jones if McAllister's out as the six. Against this sort of opposition,
I think he'll pick Endo.
I do too.
I think he'll
but
pick
it wouldn't
Endo.
be. It wouldn't be the maddest
because of the goal, or because
no. I think there is another bit of a point here to be made, which is that if I'm Endo and Elliott and Jones, and I take it would suddenly look like a UEFA Cup midfield point. But I think there's a point where all three of them could go, well, when am I playing a Premier League game then?
Yeah, I think Elliott might start, to be honest.
I do too.
Because I think the Fulham game it got to a point certainly where it was relatively suited to his skill set, and he doesn't see a single minute. And I think that's interesting going into a midweek game away from home against a team that are probably going to be without the ball, like on the ball, like 30% of the time at a push. To be honest, we're going to have to break down a block. It's a really tight pitch. Elliott's a natural with the small spaces and things like that. He's really creative under the radar and stuff. So I think Elliott could be in line for the start. But then where does that come? Because if you look on that side of the pitch, you've got Szoboszlai, who's just played an hour, so he's probably got enough in the tank to go again. And you've got Salah. So it's interesting to see. But he's definitely got options. That's for sure. Like.
Yeah, it's got options. I think this is a big thing. As I say, I think there is a couple of suitability questions there. It just strikes me as interesting, Fuad. Obviously, we're all going to say Liverpool should win the game. We all said that about Fulham, but we didn't expect it to spiral the way in which it did. With the new manager, Bramall Lane is a difficult place to go. As Josh says, it's like a five-a-side pitch as well. That's the other thing to point out. It will be a tight ground. City only win there 2-1. The flip side of that is that these just got hammered in 55 minutes by Bournemouth on their own ground.
Burnley,
they've just got beat 5-0 by Burnley at Burnley. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah,
they were down reduced to 10 men, but still.
But it was away.
I think City, Spurs and United all beat them 2-1 and all scored late goals to get those wins. So I'll be honest, that's not a game I'm looking forward to. I think we could win 5-0 just because of this team, but I think it will be a tight, horrible, sticky game, where there's it's difficult to get any rhythm, and I think it'll be very Luton.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an enjoyable watch for me, don't know what you.
No. The year we win the league, we struggle, don't we, to win there?
Yeah,
it's a goalkeeping mistake that gives us the sort of win. So I think it will be the same. I think
it's a very first goal game for us.
Yeah,
if ever
totally.
there was one. They won't have the manager. They're in a trench together. There'll be a bit of spirit about it and a defensive, a compactness that will come from that spirit. But once you breach it, you would expect what tiny confidence they have to eke away to nothing.
Yeah, the ground goes flat. It's all very much what's been going on for them this season. It all kind of comes back in that way. I think that's why the element of control that Liverpool show is really important, because they need to be able to sort of not offer any hope or any encouragement at all, like they did, like they didn't do with Fulham, where quite early on there was that encouragement, there was that hope of how they could see a way through this. So I think Liverpool need to make sure they do that very early.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to take. It's obvious to say take our chances, not as per Luton, and it would be nice to have saved another one in the bank of those less than 0.1 xG goals for this, because I think it might take a set piece goal or a strike from outside the box to break the game. I don't think we're just going to unpick them easily enough, but we'll see.
We will see, indeed. The one thing I would say is that Chris Wilder, I think, is a good manager, but the one thing he isn't is a miracle worker, and he can't come in, lay hands on the injured Sheffield United centre-halves and fix them all overnight. And I think that some of those earlier fixtures in the season, they did have the footballers, the first choice defenders in there, and they just will not have that for this one. So I think a strong Liverpool start could well elicit a fair few bits of good news. Also, new manager bounce is a bit of a myth. Frankly, it often takes a couple of games to get things sorted, although there's a lot of difference between Heckingbottom and Wilder in terms of approach. So we will see from there. Thank you very much indeed to Rob, to Fu, and to Josh, Helen Poole, and John Gibbons as well for what came as it wore on. Jordan Singleton has looked after the images if you've YouTubed this. Andy Heaton has looked after the audio in general, either whichever way it goes. Been a pleasure across the board. Liverpool have done part one of the three legs. The three legs that make all the difference. Everything free on the Anfield Wrap this week, but the thing we want more than anything isn't free content, it's 9 points.